and welcome to Booklist. I'm Nancy Pearl. My guest today is Donna Seaman, author, book reviewer, and all-around great reader. In fact, one of the best readers I've ever met. Donna, thank you for being on the show.
Nancy, thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored.
Well, how could I not? Your book is called River of Books, A Life in Reading. As soon as I saw that, I thought, oh, what a good opportunity to talk to Donna. So this is your memoir of sorts, or your book memoir, maybe, let's say, or as you say, a life in reading, a life surrounded by books. Why did you want to do this book?
Well, thank you. Yes, it's a curious thing. I'm not one to talk or write about myself very much. So this was an invitation to contribute to a new series called Ode Books, a small press venture, to have brief books about places devoted to books and about reading. So I followed the great Paul Yamazaki, who had the first Ode books, Reading the Room. Paul's at City Lights, the legendary bookstore in San Francisco. I was the second, invited because of my long tenure at Booklist as a reviewer and just, as you said, an all-around book fanatic. When I was invited to write it, it was not necessarily going to be a memoir, but I didn't want to write sort of literary criticism. I wanted to tell a story. And I know you'll understand this. I didn't feel that I could really write about my work. It's kind of fraught, sensitive and all that. So I thought if I go to the past, if I tell the story of how I ended up where I am, I would be free to write in a really open narrative way and call out books that really shaped me as a human being.
Yeah, I think a couple things about the book that just really stood out was the way you wove your personal life and your family with this growing love of reading. And the other thing that when I was reading the book, I just underlined, you had so many wonderful quotes. Well, the quote that you have where she said, she gave him a hard time, people do what they can.
I just thought, we have the same sense of humor.
Yes, I thought that was just great. So when you're reading, I know that you read far and wide and you read so freely. I think you talked in the book about reading Shakespeare freely. What does that mean? What does that mean to you?
That means to me that I had a need, a hunger to understand things, especially how humans feel and think. Books are the great portal onto the inner world that remains so mysterious to each other. I wasn't crazy about school. I know this surprises people. I seem like the sort that would be a good student, and I really was not. I was bored. I found it really restrictive. I really didn't like being a child at all because you're treated so you're patronized. Everything's trivialized and simplified. Somehow I just knew none of that was true. So I followed my curiosity, and everyone was always talking about Shakespeare. I mean, you're supposed to read Shakespeare in school. I enjoyed much more just reading it on my own and trying to puzzle it out. And I read over my head a lot as a kid, of course. So going back to it, it was, it's humbling, but also curious about what you can pick up on your own. And I'm not dismissing teachers in any way, or English teachers. I had wonderful teachers, certainly, who taught me a lot, but I also had my own agenda.
Right. And I think sometimes a teacher can introduce a work in a certain way that helps you understand it, but there's something so different about encountering it on your own and working your way through it. What was your favorite play of Shakespeare?
Do you like the comedies?
Yeah, no, guess what? King Lear is my teacher.
Oh my gosh, Donna.
A little grim. I do enjoy the comedies. I do like Midsummer Night's Dream a lot.
But. Yeah.
Yes. What do you look for? What do you look for in a book? What is the entryway for you into a book?
The entree really is the writing. I really am very much a word by word reader. I just want beautiful, excellent, clear, ringing reading of language. I want to read something that's, artistically created. And it can be about anything. It can be in any form. But the first thing I notice is just that quality of the prose. I'll read informational nonfiction as well, because I want to learn and understand things. But when I encounter that really thoughtful, careful writing that, really searching for descriptions and metaphor, it's like cellular. I'm like thrilled by it entirely. My entire person responds to that, like to music and to art and good food, all that stuff. It kind of transcends the surface. So that's what I look for first.
And who for you would exemplify that? What writers do you, so you're sitting in your office at Booklist magazine, and books are coming in fast and furious, and you can see what you want to review. And we always look for your reviews because they're, first of all, so well written, and second of all, so insightful. How do you choose what you're going to review?
Yeah, so I follow certain writers, of course, and when I think of exquisite writing, I think of many people. I think of Alice McDermott for one example, Siri Husted. I could name many. Claire Massoud is another really fine writer who's had a recent book. The poets. I make it a point to read new writers. I love first-time novelists, for instance. So Zadie Smith is another kind of model of, I'm sort of thinking about people that, maybe they're sort of my standards in some way.
Yes, right.
Yeah, that, that really giving yourself over to the intricacy of language, to the subtleties of meaning, to use a word that is really hitting on what you're trying to say, and that you're trying to say something nuanced and important. So that's the kind of thing I look at for.
Are there, I know people will want to know this. When do you stop reading a book?
Yeah, you mean if I decide not to review it? Yeah.
If you decide not to review it, or if you are just reading it outside of your job?
Well, if it's that, then pretty quickly. I'll give it a spell. I also have learned to put a book down and give it some time. Sometimes it's me and not the book. I'm distracted. I'm upset about something. I'm hungry, whatever it is. So I'm like, I'm not going to blame the book at first go. So I'll come back to it. If I come back to it and it still seems dull, flawed, in any way incoherent, then I'll just let it go. It's not a happy thing for me. I'm not the sort of critic that wants to say negative things. I do not.
Right.
I don't. It's really easy and kind of fun to be snarky, but I don't. Yeah. That's not my mission at all. I want books to succeed. I really do, and I give them a good shot, a fair shake.
Yeah, you definitely do that. What you said about putting books down, about how much of our mood influences, where we are at that moment in our life, certainly influences how we respond to books. And I do think almost 80%, I would think, somewhere around then, around that number, is how much mood influences whether we like a book or not. And I know you read, I'm just guessing, but I suspect that you read Old Filth by Jane Gardam.
Oh, wow, that's going back. Yeah.
Yeah. So that triptych of the three books, I just read those, and I realized that I had copies of them, and I realized I had tried to read them in 2002 when Old Filth came out, and I just couldn't get into it. It didn't grab me. And then I picked it up about a month ago and immediately read the second, The Man with the Wooden Hat, and then the third, Old Friends. And I honestly felt they're perfect novels.
They're just...
Oh my gosh. Now I want to reread them.
Yes, reread them, then we can talk about them, because I've interviewed a lot of authors, as you have, but I've never interviewed Jane Gardam, and she's 96, and I don't know. I would really love to talk to her about whether that was that whole triptych. People call it a trilogy, but I think it's
A triptych.
Really good triptych. I like that better.
Yeah.
whether she had that in mind when she started Old Filth.
Right.
But I don't know that would ever. She's in England, but her earlier books, A Long Way from Verona and Bilgewater, very different from Old Filth, but the writing is so fantastic.
So true, and it's interesting. I think it can be your mood and also maybe your place in life. It just didn't speak to you earlier. Yeah,
Right.
I have found that too, definitely, especially in sort of demand. Like poetry, I think is the toughest thing. There's days where I do not have a poetry brain to save my life. I can't do it. And certain poets too, I will try, and I'm like, yeah, okay, and then other times I'm like, oh, this is it. So it really does vary. Yeah.
I really thought that one of the best, when Twitter was Twitter, there were a lot of poetry posted, and I found some wonderful poems because of that. Being able to just see those and get into the. Do you have favorite modern contemporary poets, or do you just read?
I do. I love Jane Hirschfield a lot.
Yes.
Of course, my mind always goes blank when people ask me these questions.
Well, Stephen Dunn. So Stephen Dunn was one of my favorites, and I was very sad when he died.
Yeah.
That's right. Oh gosh, yeah. There's so many. I'm trying to think who I'm reading recently. I'm about to read Amy Gertzler's new book, and I really like her work.
Louise Gluck.
I love, for nature-loving people like me, Mary Oliver is a great favorite, and I've been recommending Mary Oliver a lot to people lately who want to know what to read for some solace and for some clarity. Those kind of works.
Are there books that you go back to? Do you do a lot of rereading, or are you so without time to do that?
Without time. I don't do a lot. I do some, but not a lot. I have a long list of books I wish I could reread, and there's plenty of poetry on there. I go back and reread things. For this book, I reread a lot, which was really fun and interesting to me. Rereading Leslie Marmon Silko was a great revelation, because ceremony in particular was a one that I read probably too quickly. It was really great to go back to. So periodically I do. That's my excuse for picking up children's books too, like The Little Prince, which I dearly love and feel like I need once in a while. And for various reasons, I've read Sandra Cisneros' The House on Mango Street many times, because I interview Sandra or do things with her. And that's a book I just always marvel over. So there's certain books I just kind of return to for practical reasons, but find them very inspiring.
You sort of return to the river of books.
Exactly.
Yeah. Are there books, when you were talking about children's books, sometimes I think that the experience that I've had rereading favorite children's books made it a mistake for me to do that it's better to have the, the memory of it rather than trying to recapture that wonder when I first read it.
Yes, I understand that. I haven't done that with a lot of books. Just, again, like something will come up, some project will come up, or something I'll be reading like a biography or something, and an author will be fixated on some book, and I'll be like, oh, I wonder why, and I'll take a look at it. But I haven't, even for this book, I didn't spend a lot of time on the kids' books, and I kind of outgrew kids' books pretty fast. I wasn't really all that patient with them, frankly. So I read a couple of the ones that really struck me, and I loved rediscovering Dorothy Sterling's Mary Jane, which I
I was glad that you talked about that in the book.
That was
Yeah,
because
talked
that
about
was a
her.
huge book for me and many other people. As I learned going online, I couldn't even remember the name of it. That's how, but the feeling it left in me, the things I learned from it, and then I became really intrigued with Dorothy Sterling herself. What a great story! I'm glad you mentioned that there was quotes in this book you liked, because I wrote twice as much as fit in here and had to cut
Did you?
so much. And a lot of what got cut were longer excerpts that I'm enamored of, but just, didn't fit what we were trying to
Yeah,
do, which was to have a
right.
good narrative.
Oh, now that makes me wish I could read the uncut version.
Thank you. Well, I'm hoping to turn some of it into some essays.
Uh-huh. A long essay, I hope. Yeah. In the book, in River of Books, The Life in Reading, periodically throughout the book, you have lists. So talk about how you decided what lists you were going to include and how you went about making those lists.
Thank you. Those were fun. So while I was working on this, I kept pushing back against the urge to make it, sort of, I don't know, I guess serious in a literary way. I wanted it to be fun. I mean, I hope that some of it's funny and some of it's very personal. And I think because I write so many reviews, I just wanted to do something different. Like in my last book, I wrote about women artists, so I didn't write about books at all, which was really exciting for me. But my editor was like, you should talk about the criteria for your book. What are you looking for? And I said, oh, yes, you're right, I should. Sort of an ars poetica or something. But I thought, I kept thinking about the river and about boats and things that I'm fascinated by. And I was thinking about how river pilots take soundings of the water so they don't run aground. So I wanted to do soundings of books. And so I ended up writing those lists. And I originally called them soundings, but that didn't make sense to anyone. So I gave them different labels.
Well, the one I thought was the list that I was taken with was what I hope for in books. And
Thank you.
did these just new perspectives, old stories told with fresh insights, the pursuit of social justice? It's such a diverse list that you hope for in books, and I think when you read this list, you get a sense of you, that of your approach as a reader, but also as a reviewer, and what your, I mean, I don't know. You're Donna. I am being utterly, like, you are probably the best reviewer. You and Ron Charles. Let me say that. Yes, yes. So, but do you ever get tired of it?
Of reviewing?
Yes, of judging, of feeling that with every book you're judging.
That's a really interesting question. Thank you for that tremendous compliment. I'm always very humbled by the books I read, so I don't feel like a judge. I feel much more like an interpreter or a journalist taking someone through a journey through a book. And that's really how I think of it.
Wow.
Yes, exactly. I don't ever feel above it, or and I really struggle with like best lists and our top of the year. I mean, I really agonize over that. Whereas when I'm one-on-one with a book, I really feel much more. I just want to report on it. I feel very much like a reporter. Here's where this book takes you. Here's the voice I'm hearing when I read this book. Here's the people I've met. Here's the issues they're facing. Here are the conflicts. And is there a moral compass in this book, and why? I mean, that's what I'm really looking for and really care about and want to share and describe. And that's how I review. I like to certainly praise the writing and find good adjectives for that, but also just be really precise about what goes on in this book. That's how I.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what your reviews do is invite the reader who's reading their reviews to share with you your response to the book, and without saying, this is the best book I've ever read, or just looking at each book as an individual.
As you do with works of art, as you do with people, and
Right.
animals, every
Right.
a living entity. So yes, that's it. So I don't feel that I'm judging so much as responding, and even like almost sort of trying to harmonize with it a little bit. Like here's the experience. Here's what it is. I think it's excellent. See what you think.
When you're doing, when you were writing this book, you were presumably at home working on it. And did you not find that, yes, right there where we're looking, did you find it distracting to work at home?
No, oh, no.
No?
No, I mean, yeah, I'm a total homebody. I'm happy to work at home. I'm always working at home. What I found distracting was worrying about work while working on the book, because
Yeah.
Booklist is a relentless beast. And also what I found distracting was I really often didn't want to write about myself. And my very kind and wise editor just kept saying to me, "It's great. The stories about you are great. Put more of that in," that kind of thing. So that was my struggle. I wanted more books, less me. I was encouraged to have more me and a little less books. That's when I would get a little derailed periodically and kind of go back. But I think it worked.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah. Go.
That balance was important to me. I really wanted there to be as many books as possible.
Yes, and now that, we hope you'll do a long essay with many, many quotes, that, yes, more books. Are you surprised that you ended up where you are in your life? Is that a shock to you, or did you... There wasn't a clear path that I could discern in the book.
Exactly. I think I am often surprised. I'm immensely grateful because I really, I teach sometimes and speak to young people, and people ask me about my career, and I always kind of laugh to myself. My career, I never thought about a career. I was not a very practical person, and things were different then. I think there was a lot less pressure to conform. And I wasn't I'm still not like a super materialistic type of person. So I need money, but it wasn't my big focus. So I feel very lucky. It seems, I sort of joke in the book that I was destined to arrive here. I never knew there was a magazine called Booklist for a long time. But I was made Booklist. So when I heard about it, I was like, wow, that's kind of funny. That kind of sounds like me. So it was very much feeding my habit, sort of following the books. Some people follow the money. I follow the book. So I meandered around like a river does. And when I did end up at the American Library Association at ALA and Booklist, I'm like, oh, baby, this is it. This is it. I'm very much a not-for-profit type of worker. And the mission altogether of the organization of preserving our freedom to read and supporting public and school libraries, it all just rings so true to me. So.
Right. Is there another book in your future?
Oh, I hope so. I want to go back to writing profiles. Identity Unknown was profiles of 7 American women artists, and I had I love research, as you can imagine, right? So the research on that was thrilling. I went to museums and had works hauled out of vaults and storage, and all that kind of thing was great. Now I'm thinking about writing profiles about people in publishing, about writers and unsung editors, behind the scenes people that people don't know about, and historic book review editor type people like us. So I'm starting to do a little research on that and thinking about that.
Even agents would be interesting to talk about.
Real characters, yeah.
Yes.
But it's a fascinating ecosystem, the world of books. And, everyone thinks they have to be a writer to participate. And I'm always like, no, there's many other ways to be part of this world. And it's such a rewarding place to be.
Do you ever think about writing fiction?
I do. I've tried it now and then. It's hard. And of course, I have such high standards.
Yes.
So
yes.
I know you ventured into fiction.
I did. I thought it was, and I did it because of the characters that had come to me. and they wouldn't leave, and I loved them, and in a way I wish that I hadn't published the book because I could see that I would still be writing about them.
Well, there's always the second novel.
Right, Redux, right? George and Lizzie, Redux.
Right. I would love that. Yeah, well, I always think, may life be long. I do have there's some people I want to write about that I don't think I can find out enough about, to actually do a biography or a profile or something. And that tempts me as for fiction.
Yeah. And for nonfiction, for your, focusing on the book world, the publishing world, is there somebody that you're just, fantasizing about interviewing, about looking at their?
Yeah, I haven't gotten that far yet. I've been more looking at people of the past. But yeah, so we'll see. But that
you can tell Donna. You could tell Donna I'm just so eager to read whatever you write that I'll be there.
Maybe we'll share some ideas.
And if you want to share some more quotes with me, feel free to to send them. Let me just say again before we end that I think that any reader will just love River of Books, A Life in Reading. So thank you for writing the book, and thank you for being on the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Nancy. This was such a deep pleasure, I can't tell you. So enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you.